how do you help Christians have that mentality in work? Because this isn't for everyone. This is a gross oversimplification and generality, but most people in their careers are trying to continually grow, right, in their position, in their compensation, in their title, and all these kind of things. It's just kind of how the work world is
Yeah.
structured, and you want to make more money and have a better title and have more responsibility and all these kinds of things. But you know, being surrendered and sacrificial, and also having those things, close to the front of mind from your career growth perspective can be hard, right? Like
Hmm.
balancing those two things. I don't think you mean surrender and sacrifice means don't be motivated, but
No.
certainly they also can interact with each other in an odd way, or be
Yeah.
hard for people to figure out. So,
Well,
yeah,
I
any thoughts, around those?
yeah, I mentioned that Mother Teresa quote, and it was at a time when she was asked if she didn't feel like a failure because Calcutta had more poverty than it had before she started, and there was no way she could be successful in eradicating poverty in Calcutta. And that's when she said to the man, he was a U.S. senator actually, she said, "My dear senator, God did not call me to be successful. He called me to be faithful." And so that story led me to imagine, I think we all imagine someday standing before God, and God's giving an accounting for our life. He's looking at our life, and we want to hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," right?
Right. Yep.
And I realize that as I stand before the Lord, He's not going to be impressed that I was the CEO of Parker Brothers Games when I was 33. He's not going to be impressed that I was CEO of Lennox China. He's not even going to be impressed that I was CEO of World Vision and tripled the revenue when I was there. What he's going to ask about is, what kind of ambassador were you for me? How did you treat the people that I entrusted to your leadership, your coworkers, your subordinate workers? Did you care about their lives, or did you use them to get ahead personally? Did you
Right.
use other people to become successful? Did you chase after success as opposed to faithfulness? Because the things that will impress God are none of the things that will impress the people around us.
Right.
The people
Yeah.
around us are impressed with the biggest church, the fastest
Stuff.
growing church,
Right.
the young executive that becomes a CEO, the mansion that they live in, all the trappings of success and wealth. And yet God is not interested in any of that. He just wants to look at your heart and say, were you faithful? Now, if you're faithful and you're diligent, we should be diligent as Christians in any work that we do. We should be diligent. In fact, there's a whole chapter in my book on excellence, right? Because we need to work with
Right. Yeah.
excellence.
That's right.
And if we work with excellence and we lead with these values, integrity, humility, compassion, it's probably pretty likely that we'll be successful as a byproduct, right?
Mhm.
Because the people who work for us, everybody loves a boss that has those characteristics, right?
Right.
Who of
Yeah.
us don't want to work for a leader that embodies all of these wonderful attributes and characteristics?
Right.
We've all had I've had horrible bosses in my career.
Yeah.
Manipulative Machiavellian bosses that it was all about them. I've had some great bosses that really cared about me and my career and were helpful to me. And if you live long enough and work in enough places, you'll experience both, right?
Yeah.
The
Right.
good, the bad, and the ugly. So I just think we have to remember what's important in God's economy, because God could care less whether you're a CEO or, frankly, this is a bold statement, God could care less whether your church is 20,000 or 200
Right.
people. I really believe that some of the great heroes of the faith in our world today are pastors of tiny churches that maybe pastor a flock of 100. We know that the average church size in America is somewhere around 100, 125, something like that. People that served faithfully for decades, that always tried to do the right thing, that ministered into people's lives. I think they're going to be at the head of the line when we move into heaven. And
Right.
some of those megachurch pastors may be at the back of the line.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, like, the first will be last, right? Last will be first, like that. Like,
It,
it's all flipped,
I can
in terms
guarantee
of
you
how
it'll
we look
be
at
mostly names you've never heard of,
it.
that
Yeah.
that get the accolades, from the Lord,
Yeah.
because they were faithful, and they didn't chase after success for the wrong reasons, right? It's great to chase after some growth for your church for the right reasons, because you
Yep.
want to lead people to Christ and you want to make disciples, who will go out and make more disciples, and you want people to lead a deeper kind of life with a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Those are all the right motivations. But to do it for prestige or to have the biggest podcast, even Frank,
A
to
long way off.
yeah, I mean, if the goal of your podcast is to minister to pastors and church leaders, that's a wonderful aspiration. If the goal is to make more ad revenue, or whatever, you might make more ad revenue if you get it on your podcast. But if that's your goal, you've got the wrong goal.